Yalimadad, happy Saturday team. So good to have you today with us on this webinar of Rise Above Worries and Thrive. My name is Murad Wadvania, and I have the honor of serving as IPN, Smiley Professional Network Lead for Western Region. I will quickly share some context on this webinar and then introduce our speakers or panelists today. It is not a secret that in today's environment, it's equally important, if not more important, to have mental well-being and manage your mindset well in addition to your competencies well. And oftentimes we find people over-index on their mental capabilities, professional capabilities. However, we have seen time and again, people who go ahead and are really fulfilled in their professional as well as personal life are people who have healthy mental well-being. So with this idea, we are coming to you with a panel who is going to talk about mental health and how to overcome worry, especially in the current context where there are so many stress drivers for all of us. We have two wonderful panelists. Our key panelist is Dr. Rosina Lakhani. Dr. Rosina is a psychiatrist as well as a professional coach who has helped thousands of leaders, including myself. I'll share you my story as well. But she helps leaders stop stress from being bad. Now, what is bad? Bad is being burnt out, having anxiety, and having depression. She provides coaching plus personalized medicine for mental health, in addition to advanced treatment like TMS for mental illness. She also shares tips for mental fitness in her podcast named Happy and Healthy Mind with Dr. Rosina. I would encourage you to check out the podcast. She is an MD psychiatrist, author, and speaker, in addition to being a business owner, a mother, and a very active volunteer in our institution. Our host today, who will have conversation with Dr. Rosina Lakhani, is Aziz Bandeli. Aziz is a member of IPN Western Region. He resides in Sacramento, and professionally, he is in technology industry. He's a senior manager of software engineering at Solidum. Aziz personally is a very, very passionate volunteer and very passionate about this idea as well of mental well-being as well. So I promise you this will be a wonderful conversation. And the idea is not just to have a conversation between these two individuals, but we encourage all of you to share your thoughts in the chat, share your questions in Q&A, and we will represent, Aziz will pull your questions to ask Dr. Rosina as well. So you get an opportunity to make this super relevant and ask your own questions as well. With that, it is my privilege to welcome Dr. Rosina and Aziz.
Thank you, Murad. Yalimdad, everyone. Good morning. I'm super excited here to be the moderator for this awesome webinar. In just a second, we'll talk to Dr. Rosina. Just a couple of housekeeping announcements. So we have the chat window in the Zoom open for general engagement questions, comments, any future topics you would like to, for us to present. And then the Q&A section in which we would request you to add additional questions. So like Murad said, we've already, summarize the key questions from the participation registrations forms, and we will ask Dr. Rosina those questions here. In addition, any new questions can be added to Q&A, and my colleague here, Mariam, will help us, summarize those for us so we can make sure spend some time on those too. So before we go forward, Azim would help us run a quick survey so we can get some interaction going in from our audience. Okay, so there's a question on your poll. Please select an option in 30 seconds. All right. I think this is good, Azim. Okay, we can end the poll, Azim bhai. Okay, so super honored, Dr. Rosina, to have you here. And as part of IPN, we have done like in the last webinar. Sorry, I'm going to minimize the survey screen here. In the last webinar, we talked to our professionals, and that was like early January, and that's when the economy was kind of going a little bit down. The stock market was catering, the lots of job loss, especially in the big technology industry, where many of our West Coast participants were being announced. And there was like a lot of stress and anxiety. Some of our panelists also shared at that time saying, hey, in addition to, if you lose a job or you feel like you're about to lose a job, focus on your, stress component, the mental health, because it can go from bad to worse and you may not even know it. And that makes you less relevant to find a job or next gig or start a new business or be successful in what you already have. So we would like to start with that. And I know you have an awesome video for us to kickstart this conversation.
Thank you.
अपना दिल है ना, बड़ा डरपोक है, इसको बेवकूफ बना के रखो। लाइफ में कितनी बड़ी प्रॉब्लम हो, तो बोलो कोई बात नहीं चाचू, सब ठीक ठाक है, ऑल इज वेल, और उससे प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगी। नहीं, लेकिन उसको झेलने की हिम्मत आ जाती है।
Awesome, thank you. That is one of my favorite movie and an amazing clip. So on that note, as you saw in the survey, 67% people even here feel like if you don't worry or prepare for the future, we won't be ready. So that's one. And also you had done in your podcast, you had mentioned that 80% of professionals feel some level of moderate to high stress, right? So probably only 20% people feel like their life is free of stress. So please kick us off with your thoughts on, what's stress, what's worry, what's anxiety, and at what point it becomes anxiety disorder, and what signs do we see to even better understand, first of all, ourselves so we can do something about it.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, worry is part of, day-to-day life. You are concerned about something, then you start worrying, and then it starts becoming a bigger and bigger problem. It's kind of a snowball effect. And so the difference between, okay, if somebody has lost the job or they're worried about losing the job, it's normal to be concerned, right? You cannot just kind of close your eyes and not think about it. So the difference between being concerned and being prepared versus worry is when you are concerned, you look at pros, cons, you look at what is in your control and you work on it, you prepare for it. But then let's say in 24 hours, you work on it for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. But then the rest of the 21 hours or 23 hours, then you don't keep on thinking about that. When you can continuously worry about what's going to happen, what is going to happen, what is going to happen, then it becomes a problematic worry. Plus, most of the time, when you're worried about something, your focus is on what is the worst case scenario. And now it's important in strategic planning to think about what is worst case scenario so that you can take steps towards that. But then you also focus, you're not, and I'm going to share a technique later, so I don't want to go too much in detail, but the difference between being concerned and taking steps versus excessive worry is that once you take the steps, you are able to let it be and you're not constantly thinking about it, versus the excessive worry is something that you're constantly thinking about and focusing on negative consequence. So that's the difference. When the excessive worry continues and keeps on progressing and starts affecting your functioning, it starts affecting your sleep or your being able to relax, it makes you start feeling nervous and anxious, then it starts changing into an anxiety disorder. So, some people start having palpitations, some people start staying stressed or tight all the time, or excessive worry continuously. And so those are the criteria for anxiety disorder. Some people start having diarrhea, some people start having migraine headache or insomnia. So these are all consequences of excessive worry that is not controlled or that is not stopped before it becomes a disorder. So that's the difference between the worry and anxiety disorder. Normal amount of anxiety is normal. So let's say if you're driving the car and you see somebody step on the road, your body is going to go into anxiety reaction, right? It's going to get tight, and your eyes would see, it gives the message to your brain. The brain would give the message to your body to get tight, and especially tighten your leg muscles so that it can put it on the brakes so the car can stop and you can stop or avoid an accident, right? So that is a normal anxiety, which is important for survival. But after you have passed that, then it takes a few minutes for your body to come back to normal. Like when you were tight, your heart beating is fast and your body is all tight. But when you're able to avoid the accident, then you start calming down and your body comes back to what we call homeostasis. And so that is a normal cycle. But sometimes when you are constantly getting tight and constantly doing these things, your brain starts a little malfunction. And in that case, because it is constant and it is not able to calm down, it becomes the anxiety disorder. So that's the difference between general anxiety, which is normal and protective, from anxiety disorder when it becomes abnormal and starts affecting your functioning.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Dr. Rosina. I think you also had a slide to share. So Mariam, if you can project the slide. So this one, I had seen a video like a long time ago in one of our professional management classes that, you get this amygdala hijack, right? So that's part of the brain which is responsible for fight or flight, and they said like, it's good that humans have it, because if we didn't, this is the saber-toothed tiger story. If our ancestors didn't have this part of the brain, we probably would be all dead, right? So it's good that they had this part to warn you against a potential risk or issue or threat, and it triggered their actions like, hey, run from here, only then you'll survive. So could you explain a little bit more about this diagram, and how should we add this into our thinking, or how do we know, like you mentioned some of the symptoms already in the amygdala hijack, and how, if we know, what can we do to overcome or, escape that trap?
Sure. So this slide explains that you see something in the example that I just used, like, you're driving and you see a potential threat of getting into an accident. The message goes to your cortex and it goes to your amygdala. Amygdala is your survival organ. It is from sometimes they call it reptilian brain because it has evolved over the years, but survival has been most important throughout our evolution. And so the normal amygdala is like a normal fire alarm. It goes off if there is a fire scare. And once the scare is gone, everything is fine, it is reset, it comes back to normal. But if you keep on turning on the fire alarm, even when there's no fire, then you get annoyed, right? All the functioning gets affected. There's no fire, but it keeps on going on because it has been stimulated too much. It is starting to malfunction. So similarly, when our amygdala, which is the fear response organ in the brain, if it keeps on getting stimulated, then time comes when it starts malfunctioning. So like the fire alarm going on even when there's no fire, amygdala keeps on going on when it is not there. And so then you're constantly in the state of anxiety and reactivity. Something simple happens that you don't need to react to, but you react because you are sitting so tense and so tight.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for
Can you
sharing.
show the second slide, please? So the slide with the snake, the snake slide. And so what happens is in our body, there are two systems. That is, one is called sympathetic nervous system, and the other one is called parasympathetic system. When there is a threat, our sympathetic system goes in action. So your body gets tight, you get into the fight or flight response. Here in the diagram, you see there's a snake behind you and you're running away. So your sympathetic system is in action. And then after the stressor or the threat is gone, you need to kind of come down and your parasympathetic system kicks in. So that is called rest and relax and digest phase, where the heart that was beating too fast, it kind of calms down. Your breathing that was fast, it kind of calms down. And the blood that was going towards your muscles to help you fight or flight the danger, that blood starts going back to your stomach, so then you can digest better and you can rest. So the system needs to have this balance. When I say balance, my kid used to joke that, Mom, you keep on talking about balance. If everything is straight, it would be so boring. I say, when I say balance, that doesn't mean straight seesaw. It means go up and down. It's like walking. How long can you stand on one leg? It's just, you have to have this balance of one leg with the other so that you can move forward. Similarly, in our body, the sympathetic system and parasympathetic system needs to be balanced in the sense that, when the threat is over, then you need to take time for your parasympathetic system to kick in, so that you can stay in this, what I call homeostasis of the body. Sometimes we, in our modern world, we carry our phones, right? So our battery lives are going longer and longer, so we are able to hold our phone without charging for longer and longer. But what happens if you don't charge your phone? It's going to go dead, right? And so it would be helpful if you do not let the battery totally drain out and go zero before you charge. So you take some time and you charge your phone. Bringing the parasympathetic system is like recharging your body, like you're recharging your phone or your laptop or whatever other tools you're using. By doing certain steps, you are recharging your body and your mind. And so I will describe some of the steps later on as our discussion go forward.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much, Dr. Rosina, for sharing. And just quick announcement for the audience, please keep your a folder with 2 white papers ready for there'll be some exercise time for you all a little later in the call today. And if you don't have paper handy, because we live in digital world, have your cell phone or iPad, tablet, something ready. So next question for Dr. Rosina. I know you're very passionate in helping, your patients whom you work with and also the corporate leaders, and you coach and mentor a lot of people in this particular topic of how to overcome worry and stress. What made you so passionate in this area?
Well, like Murad was describing, like everybody, I also carry a lot of roles, and stress is part of life. You cannot stop the stress, because it is, without the stress, there is no growth either. So there's certain amount of stress is necessary, but when it starts getting too much, then it starts affecting the body. So a few years back, when my body started feeling the symptoms of stress, it was not severe enough that I would go to the doctor or it become a diagnosable condition, but it was severe enough that it started affecting my energy, my focus, my sleep. And so my stress level was very, very high at that time. And it resulted in a car accident and a broken hand. And after that accident, I realized that I needed to give attention to my own level of stress too, not just focus on everybody else. And it was very, very stressful when you're, actually I broke my dominant hand, my right hand. So it's very, very hard to function with your broken dominant hand. Simple things like opening the food jar or zipping up your pants become really hard. And that's when I had to apply a lot of the tools that I teach others in my own life. And luckily, I was able to find, tools from personalized medicine, the tools that I had learned that helped me get through that and not just thrive, but kind of not just survive, but thrive and do a lot more after that. But there are certain practices that I started at that time that helped me through that. And I will share some of the techniques later. But the point I want to raise is that when you are going through those phases of stress, it's important to give attention before it becomes extreme. So I always say, like, stop the burnout before it burns you out. And you don't need to wait for a big wake-up call. Like I got a wake-up call while, when I was driving, I zoned out while driving. I really got a wake-up call. You don't have to wait for that wake-up call to start taking action. So I became really passionate about the tools that help me to help others in that phase. I call the stressors are like traffic lights on road of life. Sometimes life is smooth, everything is going smoothly, so we call it a green zone. Sometimes, there are a little more stressors. And so using the driving analogy, you're driving and you see yellow light, you have option either to gather all your energy, push the accelerator and get through it before the light turns red, or slow down and wait for the red light. And then sometimes the lights are red and you have to stop. Similarly in life, when the life is, going smoothly, enjoy your ride. But if you're feeling like, there's a yellow lights coming, and there's some signs happening, a little bit more irritability, a little bit more sleep difficulty or worrying, take action before it becomes red. And so I got the passion about helping people in that yellow zone. They're not sick enough to go to the doctor, but if they don't take care of things right now, they will become sick. So that's why I wrote my book, Stress to Joy. I wrote my guided gratitude journal. And then when COVID started, I started my podcast where I share these practical tips for mental fitness. And now I do personalized medicine for mental wellness in addition to treatment for mental illness.
This is awesome. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your own story. So all of the audience and people who listen to this webinar can connect with that story. Thank you so much. So I'm going to go into some of the, our attendee questions who they have submitted in the registration forms. So one of the section, oh, there's some background noise. So one of the section of attendees have said like, hey, I'm a young professional, 23 years old, just started my job a couple of years ago in a high-tech company. And now there's constant flurry of layoffs in my company and in the industry and everywhere, right? So what can I do to stay focused and motivated?
So yeah, this and this is such common thing. It's not just one person who's going through that. A lot of people are going through that phase of feeling like this because that is happening so much. And so I have a basic formula whenever there is stress, how to cope with it. And I call it mind CPR. Like when somebody is having heart attack and they're going through that phase, you give them physical CPR, right? Cardiopulmonary resuscitation. Similarly, when your mind is kind of going into this phase because of the stress, we can use mind CPR. So what is mind CPR? C stands for calm down, so you can process what is happening. The P stands for processing what is coming from outside. And what you can do in response to that is the R. So CPR, C for calm down, P for processing what is coming from outside and what you are doing to contribute. And then R is respond with the wise mind. And so let's, what are some of the things that you can calm down? So I would invite the audiences to enter in the chat. What are some of the things you use to calm yourself down when the stress is going high? Like this person who asked the question. So I'm waiting for everybody to enter. Please share. All right, I see you. Somebody said breathing. Yes, breathing is one of the most basic and most powerful technique that you can implement. And so, when we say, somebody was joking, breathing, everybody knows breathing. So what is there to talk about, or what is there to learn? So there are many different breathing techniques that you can implement. Just being aware of the breathing, how you are breathing by itself would help you calm down. So I want everybody right now to just observe how you are breathing right now. Are you breathing fast or slow? Is it kind of really heavy or smooth? Just bring attention to your either chest or your nose or your stomach and see how you are breathing. Is your chest expanding or your stomach expanding? Because when your stomach is expanding, we call it abdominal breathing. When your chest is expanding, we call it chest breathing. And chest breathing, usually you do it when you're really stressed. And so as soon as you would bring attention to your abdomen and you breathe through your abdomen, your body is going to start calming down. Because when you breathe through the abdomen, there's more oxygen going in your body. And that helps the muscles to relax. The other person entered walking, wonderful technique. So when you walk, and one of the I was listening to the webinar that we did last time, and one of the panelists shared how she deals with her anxiety. And she said that if she's applying for the jobs, and she feels that anxiety coming up, she stops that and goes for the walk. What I suggest to people is when you start feeling that the stress is coming up, changing the position. If you are walking, sit down. If you're sitting down, start to stand up. Just changing the position really helps. Meditation is a wonderful tool, and there's so many different kinds of meditation that we can do. Mindfulness meditation is one. I'm going to share a couple of other meditation tools later on, but any kind of meditation that helps you focus on one thing helps to bring that stress level down. And it doesn't have to be the formal traditional meditation where you have to sit cross-legged. You can meditate anywhere and anytime. Even people who have like very busy mind and they are not able to sit down to do like passive meditation, just doing one thing that brings all their focus to one point, like doing art or doing some kind of crafts or music, dance, yoga. There are a lot of these things that could also act like a meditation for you. Some people say that one person shared that you can see things other way. Get into your body, take a walk, and get into nature. And so the nature has such an uplifting effect on the body. When I am kind of taking these breaks for myself, one thing that really is inspiring for me is looking at the tips of the plant, like, branches, those little buds that represent hope to me. So, these trees, when they go through fall, they lose all their leaves and they stay through the winter, and sometimes it's snow, sometimes it's rain, sometimes it's wind. but these trees kind of stand with patience over there, and come spring, they're rewarded with the new growth. And so the tips, the buds on the tips of those branches, even when there are no leaves, when I see them, that gives really sense of hope that no matter how much losses we are seeing or how much difficulties we are seeing, it is going to pass and the new growth is going to come. So connecting with nature is wonderful. Somebody shared that music. And so music is wonderful in terms of calming down. One caution I would say about music is when you're feeling down and you are listening to further down music, it can make you further down. Okay? So you want to change the mood. You want to use the music for your benefit. So I suggest that create an album if you are using Spotify or something other platform where you listen to the music. You can make an album of uplifting music. So I have a folder called Uplift Music. And in that, those are the music that would uplift me. So when you're feeling down, then you can listen to those music. Because most of the time, tendency is if you're feeling down, you're listening to more down music, then it will make you further down and you'll just escalate that cycle. All right, so we'll continue to talk about other techniques as we go along, but everybody, thank you for sharing your thoughts. So the second step of the CPR is processing. So many times what happens is things happen from outside, they have effect on us, but then how we respond to them has even bigger impact. One of the, somebody asked, can you please share your uplifting playlist? Okay, I'll try to share it on the Spotify. In terms of the, what I want to kind of share an analogy. So let's say, this is a Stephen Covey's analogy that he uses where he says that 95% of the, no, not 95. What happens outside has 10% effect on you. How you respond to situation has 90% effect on what is going to happen in future. So using this analogy, I have a little kid at home, and I get up in the morning, and we are doing breakfast. And the kid drops and I'm running late, so I'm saying, get ready, get ready, get ready. And then the kid drops the coffee on my shirt. I have two ways to respond. Number one, which is usual, I say, see, what did you do now? We are going to be really late. I need to go change. And then I go rush up, stamp on the stairs and go up and change my shirt while the kid is crying and trying to pack. And then I come down, she's not ready. And I say, now we're going to be really late because see, the bus has gone. Now I have to drop you. And then I take the kid and she's crying all the way. We don't even talk. I drop the kid at the school and then I'm driving fast and I get a ticket. And then when I reach home, I remember that I forget my presentation at home. And so my day is going to be all colored by whatever happened. Let's say scenario 2, the same thing happens. We are eating the breakfast, the kid drops something on my shirt. I start feeling anger. And then I remember this concept that we are talking about, 90-10 rule. And then I calm down. I say, see, now we are going to be late. It's okay. It happens sometimes. Okay, I'm going to go upstairs, change my shirt. Can you please pack up and get ready? Then I go upstairs, I change the shirt. I'm keeping breathing and I'm keeping reminding myself. And that helps me remember to take my presentation with me. I go drop my daughter and reach work. Now, the day that is going to unfold, do you think that will be different from scenario A? Why?
Yes, it will be, because you have, control your anger and minimize the further damage which was caused in the scenario 1 by staying calm. Not only you're calm, you remember to take the presentation, you probably give a hug to the kid who's happy in school, and you in result are happy at work, and your presentation would go amazing. So yeah, I think it's easier to say scenario 2 is the right one, but in the moment of anger or the moment of frustration, scenario one is what most of us, including I'm a parent, we respond with scenario one. So yeah, this is really a good reminder of introducing a checkpoint in that response process.
Yeah, and the distance between the event and your response is very small. It's like split second. And so you are going to react the way you're used to, unless you have done this thinking beforehand, unless you have prepared yourself that if things don't go according to my desire, how I'm going to respond. And you have prepared your brain to an alternate way of reacting, you're going to automatically react in a usual way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, this is great.
And
Yeah.
so I want to kind of share this diagram. This diagram was done by one of my patients. And you see there's a circle of power in between. This concept is again taken from Stephen Covey. And what he says is that everything that happens in the world that you are concerned about, let's put it in the circle of concern. These are the things that you care about. But not everything is in your control. I'm concerned about what is happening in Pakistan, or what is happening in Ukraine, or what is happening in my friend's home. She's going through the divorce, or somebody is sick. There's so many things that I'm concerned about, but a lot of those things are not in my control. There are only smaller things within it that are maybe under my influence. So I don't have the control on what happens in the elections, but I do have influence in terms of putting my vote. So I have a certain influence. Within the circle of influence, there's another circle that is called circle of power. This is what I do. So like my words, my thoughts, my action. These are something that is in my power. Next slide, please. And so when you focus more on the things that are in your circle of concern and not on the inside circle, your inside circle keeps on shrinking because your mind and your energy is focused on things that are not in your control. But if you focus more on your inside circle, what you can do, what words you can use, what actions you can do, then your circle of influence is going to increase. And so that's what I would say, that when things are happening and you find yourself thinking about, worrying about things, ask, is this inside my circle or outside my circle? If it is outside your circle, then make an intention. I'll let it go. Let me focus on what I can do, and keep bringing attention to inside the circle, so your circle of influence increases.
This is awesome. Thank you for sharing this tool. And also we had some professionals who are a little bit advanced or senior in their profession. We had some people who were like 55 years old, having to care for their parents, have kids in college, and having to deal with this economic uncertainty, right? So that was some of the questions. And I can see how rerouting or regrounding ourselves with these tools will help each one of us trying to focus on what we can control versus what we can't. And I think now would be a good time. You had perfect crossroad technique.
All right. So this is a cool technique, and I think the crossroad technique, I call it because it kind of makes a cross. But this came out with a lot of patient work when they would be worried about something, and I would just take the paper and pen and would draw this thing for them, and it really started helping a lot of people. So let's kind of let's imagine that you are this person who has lost a job, or who's worried about losing the job. Many people are worried about losing the job. So let's kind of take that. And so can everybody see the slide? So this point A is where you are, okay? Point B is something may happen in future. You may lose the job or you may not lose the job, okay? And point C is the consequence of that. So what are the chances that you may lose the job? Aziz, kind of do the role play with me. If you are this person who's worried about losing the job, what are the chances that you may lose the job?
Yeah, so I can just use my example. So we are, as any other company, we are going through our own structuring. Our business group was sold to a different company. So we're going through all of that, management restructuring, consolidations, et cetera, et cetera. So in my own case, I can say 25%.
Okay, so 25% chance that you may lose the job. I used the 50% over here. And then there's 75% chance that you may not lose the job.
Right.
But what is the mind's tendency? You
Probably more
constantly
than
worry
50. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably my worry factor is probably more than 50% for sure.
Yeah. Well, most of the time, you're actually 100% of the time thinking about what if I lose the job? What if I lose the job? What if I lose the job? And you forget about the chances that you may not lose the job.
Mhm.
Okay. So you are at point A, you have option of thinking positive or thinking negative. Let's say if you think positive and things do go positive, then you could be happy all along,
Right.
right? If you think positive and things go negative, some people think, okay, you should be prepared for negative and think negative so it doesn't hurt you as much when the negative happens. But that's a wrong assumption, because what happens is when you are thinking negative, you're mentally already distressed, you're mentally already live. But if you think positive and things do go negative, then you would be mentally strong to deal with the problem. Okay, let's see, if you think negative and things go positive, then you would have suffered for no reason, right? And if you think negative and things do go negative, you have already suffered in mind. And then when the thing happens, when you do lose the job, then you'll suffer again. So now you're suffering twice. Do you really want to suffer twice?
No.
No.
One is plenty.
So, but it's my tendency to kind of bring the worry. So I use a mantra that I'm going to walk you through. The more you use the mantra, then your mind would kind of maybe 5 minutes stop worrying, and then it would start worrying again. But then you keep repeating the mantra over and over again, and you can train the brain. So let's see, what is the mantra? You can tell yourself, Mariam, next slide, please. You tell yourself, I choose not to suffer before suffering, because suffering has not happened yet, but you are suffering in the mind. So you say to yourself, I choose not to suffer before suffering. And say, next slide. I will deal with the problem if it happens, when it happens, because there's a chance it may not happen, right? Or it may happen very long in the future. Next slide. And then you say, I'm going to focus on what I want rather than what I don't want. You do want to keep the job, right? So focus on keeping the job, building your skills, doing other things that would ensure or increase the chances of you keeping the job. Instead of focusing, what if I lose the job? What if I lose the job? What if I lose the job? The problem, go back to the slide 24. The problem is that you keep on focusing on losing the job, and there is a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you think something is going to be certain things, there's more likelihood of that happening. So you really don't want to focus on what you don't want. You want to focus on what you do want. So can you repeat after me the mantra? And I invite all the audience to repeat after me. I choose not to suffer before suffering. Aziz.
I choose not to suffer before suffering.
I will deal with the problem if it happens, when it happens.
I will deal with the problem if it happens, when it happens.
And I'm going to focus on things that I want rather than the things I don't want.
I'm going to focus on what I want more than what I don't want.
Wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I'm going to print this and put it in my office, home office, and work office too.
You're welcome.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
this
so I hope
actually-
this helped. Yeah, so now we have lots of points to discuss, but we are coming towards the towards the Q&A time. So we can start taking questions, and I can try to go through some of the other points as I'm answering the questions.
Yeah, so one of the question in the Q&A is, how do we deal with anxiety if it's part of disease or side effects of a medication? For example, if a person has a Parkinson's disease, anxiety is one of the symptoms.
Right. And so, and a lot of medications can also cause the anxiety. Again, the anxiety is because of the physiological reaction. So there is physiological part of anxiety, and then there's a psychological part of anxiety. So you're talking about how to decrease our mental anxiety through the psychological means, like thought training. That's one of the thought training technique we just did. But there's also physical calming down of anxiety. So you can use certain activities that would help you calm down, whether it's the exercise, whether there's a yoga, but there's also food. Sometimes there's certain foods that are going to increase your anxiety versus certain foods that are going to calm down the anxiety. So using the food, the exercises, the mental activities, you can try to calm yourself down. And if everything is not working, there are also natural remedies. When I remember as people submitted the questions, they also asked what supplements can we use, or what other natural tools we can use. I think the best natural tool is the mindfulness technique, which really has shown why, with research, that continuous practice of mindfulness can really decrease the anxiety and depression down, in addition to enabling you to be able to enjoy. And there's a lot of, we don't have time to go into the detail, but I have created a lot of resources on mindfulness and these techniques on my podcast, and I invite you guys to explore that if you're interested. But the point I'm bringing is that there is this continuum. There's a little bit anxiety, there's more anxiety, there's worse anxiety. So based on the level of anxiety, you want to put the intervention. If there's mild anxiety, you don't want to go on the medications. You want to kind of address it with your self tools. If still it's not getting in control, you get into therapy, you work with a therapist who can walk you through, you can use certain supplements that can help calm down. The one question, people ask me about ashwagandha or L-theanine, all these supplements have wonderful effects on the body, but they are also very strong, okay? So sometimes we think that because it's a supplement, it would not have side effects. Supplements can also have side effects. So you want to take the right supplement at the right time. Now, I treat burnout a lot, and the burnout, one of these effect of burnout is adrenal fatigue. So when somebody is under adrenal fatigue because the burnout has gone too far, they're kind of feeling really lethargic or exhausted, or they're really hyper or anxious. And so we use different supplements to address their adrenal fatigue. So one of the patients, I gave something called daily stress formula. One of my patients had found outside, she was using it. I used it to another patient. And then she called me the next day or next week. She said, oh my God, I just could not sleep for the week that I was taking that supplement. I said, like, what happened? Because one of the component in that formula is very activating. So it activated her anxiety so much that she was not able to sleep. So we had to change her supplement to a calming agent that would allow her to sleep. So depending on your situation, you want to have different tools, and therefore I cannot just say, oh, ashwagandha is good for everybody, or rhodiola is good for everybody, because they have different effects, and even the supplements could have side effects.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you, Dr. Rosina. So I know we have a survey. We intended to do the little writing journal, and we also have a bunch of questions. So we'll try to wrap up in the next 10 minutes and cover as much as we can. And I know you have wealth of knowledge, and we can't get to all of that in an hour. So we'll do our best for 8-9 minutes. One of the questions from audience is, I'm mother of 2 young, wonderful children, and a family and full-time job. And I feel, rarely have time for myself, and I feel guilty when I do. So what technique would you recommend for someone in her situation?
Time is a constraint that most of us feel at this time. Even chote bacche ko bhi bolte, like, little kids, they would say, oh, I'm too busy. So like, I have stopped using the word busy. I say my life is very colorful. There's never a dull moment. Because and sometimes you can use a little dulling. So what for busy professionals, for busy mothers, and people who have like very little time, I suggest identifying simple 1 to 5 minutes tools that you can use while you are doing other things. And so I use a 1 minute technique when, as you're stepping out, let's say if you're driving the car and you're stepping out, or you're stepping out from your home to go to the office, just using that transition time to do 1 minute relaxation exercises that you can download from, I think somebody shared it on the chat. You can download, where you can just do 1 minute of calming down, bringing yourself in the moment. And those 1 minute times are like recharging time. So as your stress is going up, you do this 1 minute, it would come down. And then your stress is going up, you do 1 minute, it would come down. And so you do these 1 minute things. And as I earlier said, change your position. If you're sitting, stand up. If you're standing, sit down. Walking, doodling. If you have little kids, do the doodle with them. Do the coloring with them. Doing self-soothing walks with them. So doing activities with the kids that calm them down as well as calm yourself down is a wonderful thing. As you're walking, making your walking mindful walking can change an activity into a meditation and helps you calm down. So kind of identify those things that you can incorporate in day-to-day life. Well, one of my guest that I was interviewing on the podcast, and she's a manager and she has kids. And one of the things that she said was the life changer that I teach a lot is the morning ritual. So she started waking up like, a half an hour before her kids was waking up. And that half an hour, she said, was like my sanctuary. And you would hear it from people after people that if you have this certain sanctuary time, that is your time when you're doing your reflection and setting the intention for the day, you would see your day go completely differently. Now, I talked about when I was in a car accident and, I broke my hand. After a little while, the one tool that got me through from that initial phase of feeling, oh my God, this is the end of the world type of thing, to now being able to do a lot of things was my journaling technique. And I started my journaling when my right hand was not working. And so my friend had given me a journal that was sitting on my bedside. And because I'm a right-sided sleeper, I could not sleep because of all these nails around my hand. And so I could not sleep. So I was sitting and then I had known about this gratitude journal, but had never practiced it before. So that was the first day when I pulled that journal and started writing with my left hand. And my first sentence was, and I did initial because I couldn't write the full sentence. So thank you, Allah, for left hand, eyes, so I could see, pillow to rest my hand, husband sleeping on my bedside, and ability to endure this pain. And so that started my practice of gratitude journal. And that's why and since that day till now, I practice my gratitude journal. So if you can take one thing from this session, start a reflection practice and start with the gratitude that would put you in the positive mindset. And that would allow you to decide what you can do and use your wise mind to utilize your time in the best possible way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we're almost at the end of the hour. And I know, Dr. Rosina, you're passionate. You can talk about this topic for a whole day. And we have so much to learn and we can talk to you all day. But you're a busy professional and we want to respect your time too. So first of all, thank you so much for, sharing your passion on this topic with us, with our professionals here, and all the, folks who will listen to this webinar will greatly appreciate this. For me, the key takeaway is, like you said, the 3 slides, right? I choose not to suffer before suffering. I will deal with the problem if it happens when it happens. And I'm going to focus on what I want more than what I don't want. And also take time for myself, practice mindfulness, maintain a gratitude journal. And I know each of our audience probably has these and some more takeaways. So thank you so much, everyone. We really, really appreciate all the audience joining us too. And the recording.
1 minute.
Webinar
I want 1 minute.
Yes.
Aziz, I want 1 minute.
Yes.
So please, people, don't drop off yet. I want to show one technique in the last minute. But we can run the poll and then I would do that 1 minute technique. And it's a wonderful technique. So
So Azim, I will run the poll quickly, please.
Are we doing? No,
Are
I
we
think
doing poll?
I
No, yeah,
think we don't need
okay. No poll?
no poll. Let's forget
No
about
poll. Okay, let's end poll. Okay.
it. All right. So we started our session with all is well from the Three
Oh,
Idiots.
right.
Yeah, I have developed a breathing technique that I call it all is well because it uses box breathing. And so you can breathe for the count of 4, hold for the count of 4, and breathe out on the count of 4 to 8. And then again, breathe in for the count of 4. So that's why it's called box breathing, because it makes a box as you breathe in, hold it, breathe out, and then breathe in. So when you breathe in, say all is well.
Wow.
Okay, let's do it together. All is well.
Wow. What a wonderful way to end this webinar right at 12 o'clock, and amazing technique. And thank you for that extra, tips which we can implement in our daily lives. So once again, thank you so much, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the webinar. Please do provide some survey and feedback so we can implement the tweaks in the future sessions. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.